Good weight. They're good size. Listen to that. Oh.
Join the team.
Hey, this is the McGuire Review, and today we're going to be taking a look at a brand new one from CMON. Let's get locked in. Nice top hat, buddy. Let's go. All right, let's get this going. Bear's got his top hat, Smokey's got smoke, and I've got tacos. All right, again, this is a brand new one from CMON. It will be released next month in the month of April 2018. We'll see this come to retail. Now, this was another CMON Kickstarter, so if you did back the Kickstarter, you're going to get this through Kickstarter as well, and there's going to be more stuff that you would receive, obviously, through the Kickstarter version of this game than you would through the retail. Now, what we're going to see here is from the retail release. There is a ton of components, a bunch of stuff that I don't even have up here on the table that you would get even outside of everything that you have here, mainly being more cards, more character cards, more villains, as well as agent cards, and all of your miniatures that you're going to have. And there's a lot more miniatures than what you see right on this setup here. This is basically the setup for pretty much Chapter 1 of the campaign. We'll talk about how this game plays out and what type of game this really is, because I actually really like this game, and it may be my favorite sort of one versus all type game that's out there right now because of the mechanics of how movement and combat and cover work in this game. We'll talk more about that because I think they did a really nice job balancing those mechanics, giving us yet, another game in the market where you do have one player that takes on, in this game, the Nemesis, and the other players, either that being one player or more players, taking on our valiant gentlemen and ladies of Club Unicorn. And I absolutely love that. Thematically, that concept is great. Club Unicorn. I mean, it couldn't be any cooler. Look at the theme of this game. It drips with theme. You've got this old, London-style theme, steampunk feel to the artwork. Just really done well. I love the theme on this game, and that may be one reason why it really jumps out and appeals to me, personally. I love the theme. All right, so let's get the box here. Bear, give me that. Thank you. All right. The World of Smog, Rise of the Moloch is what this is actually called. Again, this is another CMON title. It did come to us through Kickstarter. Let's look at some deets here. We've got 2 to 5 players, 14 plus, and 60 to 90 minutes. One thing that I like about this title, again, is the fact that it's 60 to 90 minutes. Bear, hold that for me. Thank you, buddy. All right, nice top hat. Can get through this in 60 to 90 minutes. If you really know what you're doing, you can plow through each one of these chapters in the campaign in about that hour, a little over that hour time frame, once you kind of really understand the mechanics and you get going, get moving through the game. I will say the game is fairly simple from the perspective of, moving around the board. They did simplify a lot of the movement rules. You can pretty much move any way you want, even diagonally. Line of sight is just as far as you can see, not crossing certain barriers, and we'll talk about line of sight rules, unless it's short line of sight, which has to be within 4 squares. So they kept a lot of those things very simple as far as movement and combat. When it comes to combat, you're going to be rolling these dice, which I will say from a component perspective are awesome. I really love these dice. They got a good feel, good weight, they're good size. Listen to that. Oh. Okay, so enough with the dice because that's getting weird. So let's get into the books that are included with the game here that you're going to have in the box. And again, you saw the box there. It's a nice size box. It's about the same size as what you would find with your Zombicide titles. I don't know if it's the exact same size, but it's pretty close. Let's open it up. Again, same thing you're always going to see from CMON. Nice rule book, color, text, layout, good font size. And again, there isn't a lot of complex rules here. This is a fairly quick read, I would say. This right here is going to give you everything you need to know, whether you're playing a one-shot or standalone scenario adventure. We're going to pick one of the 6 chapters that are in the scenario book here of the campaign, and you're just going to play one of them. Or you can go through the entire campaign, which I much more prefer to do, because as you go through the campaign, you have character progression, and I love that. It isn't like every time you go to a new part of the campaign, you're starting over from scratch. Any items you acquire, upgrades, powers, various things you acquire over each one of those chapters, you're going to keep with your character as you go through that campaign. And I like that aspect that they went that route. Bear, hold this. Here we go is the campaign book, and this is going to have all of the campaign information in it. And I'm not going to show you this because I don't want to spoil anything of the campaign. But what's nice about this is there is a few pages that start off that give you some backstory on what's going on. And then every one of the chapters also give you a full understand. There's some flavor text, and we can just look here at the unhappy hour. I will show you a little bit of this one as far as conditions. There is a part here where you'll be able to read a nice little chunk of text that cues up the story of this particular chapter. And that's one thing I do really like about this title as well. I love the story of the campaign and the story as you go through each chapter. So not only do we have character progression throughout the course of the campaign, you also have what I like to call branching stories or branching outcomes. So as you go through and you play a chapter, depending on what happens, there'll be various outcomes that will affect the next chapter. And it isn't just as simple as you either won or you lost. There's multiple layers of that win and that loss over the chapter. So that's something that is a lot of fun, I think, as you go through this and makes the campaign really fun. Bear, hold that one. Okay, now let's hit some of these components and let's talk about gameplay, because I do want to make sure everybody gets a feel for how the game does play out and what all these components are going to be used for. All right, so let's start. There's a lot on the table, so let's start with our tokens and whatnot, and then we'll kind of work our way over here, and then we'll hit this. And let's see that I actually do it that way. So what we're going to do here is talk about the tokens first. We've got some rubble tokens. These will be placed on the board based on what scenario or chapter you're playing as part of that 6-part campaign. These will just offer various different obstacles for you, rubble that will be there, and there are rules for the rubble. Here's a couple tokens here to indicate some abilities and special things that you might be able to do based on rolling your dice. We'll talk about more about what each of those symbols mean on the dice. There's a few of these square tokens here that do various different things. There's a couple of them. Here's one that tracks the round. Here has a little clock on it. Here's a couple up here that track gentleman's death, as well as conspiracy points. That's something that have come into the campaign. There's a special board we'll take a look at here in a minute that will help us with that. There's also these little tokens right here that are red and blue, and they have little letters on the back. Those are things you'll want to get to during the course of your chapter. You'll see here we have A and we have B and we have C. For this, A and B are actually item caches, so if you can get to those, they're kind of like chests, and you can get some various different random items and gear out of those chests if you're able to get to those. So you definitely want to be able to do that, because again, you'll be able to keep those things if you're playing multiple chapters within a scenario. Over here with our C for this particular setup, it's a fire extinguisher. So these bobbies can grab this fire extinguisher, and if they got it, a fire token can't be placed, in their square, and they can also use an action to be able to put fire out, which is very important. Over the course of the game, the Nemesis player will be able to spread these fire tokens at the end of what we'll call every round. So at the very end, and when we go into the wrap-up phase to start a whole new round of play, you'll be able to take these fire tokens and spread them around the board adjacent to any fire token that's currently there. So if you don't maintain these fire tokens and really watch them and use your fire extinguisher for this particular chapter and put those out, it's going to get to be a problem, because it will still allow you to move around the board, and these fire tokens just kind of act as blockers essentially. You can still move through them and around the board, but every time you do, you're going to have to take 1 damage to move through that fire token. So it is something that can kind of sneak up and stop you, and the Nemesis player can utilize these fire tokens to help kind of crowd control the various gentlemen, because you're going to be weaving around those if you don't have anything to put them out, to make sure that you're not taking damage. Okay, we got a couple tokens here. They're going to allow us to add bonuses to some of the abilities that we already have, as well as health, and that's what those are for. These are going to be our health tokens here, so as you take damage, you're actually going to add these to your board. And that's going to show the damage that you're taking on your gentleman, as well as other, characters and agents around the board. You're going to use these to signify that. There are some doors. You already see a bunch of the doors that are already set up on the board, and I like that they went with doors. And this one fell down over here. It goes right here, but I like that they went with doors here that actually were 3D doors. They could have used little flat tokens. I really like the fact that they went the extra mile and went with these doors that do stand up. It adds height to the game, it adds a 3D element to the game, and I think it makes it a little more fun and visually appealing. These doors are going to work like any other door in a game would. You can charge through them and kind of break them open. If you decide to use this character up here, you can charge through, or you can spend an agility point to open a door. Once you do open a door, the door is removed from the game, and the door is considered thematically always open go forward. So it isn't something that you're going to open and then be able to close and keep things of being able to get through. Once a door is opened, it's done. Last way doors will open is if a fire spreads through a door. It essentially will burn the door down and open the door, and then that door will be available and now open. So the only real point of doors in this game is just to be sort of a barrier, costing yourself another agility point to have to open it to be able to get through. So that's what doors are going to do, and you're going to have quite a few tokens for those there. There are these little crates and box tokens, which you'll find right here in this scenario. And again, these are just going to be utilized as cover. So in this game, there will be a way to be out of the line of sight, as well as to be in cover. And that's a fun mechanic, and I'll talk about that when we get to our dice here, of how cover actually works. Then you're going to have an assortment of different cards. And most of these cards here are going to be things you're going to acquire, you're going to get from special item caches, you're going to get as rewards at the end of a campaign, you're going to gain throughout the course of gameplay. And there's going to be various things. There's 3 different types of arsenal. So each character does have 3 spots on their board to place what we call the arsenal. And each character can hold 3 items. Which is their max, and if they were ever to pick up another one, they would have to kind of get rid of something and then put another item down. You're also going to have Moloch stones, you're going to have artifacts, you're going to have regular gear. There's all different types of things you're going to be able to pick up over the course of gameplay. These location cards are going to come into play when we do what we call the intermission, which is in between each one of the chapters in the campaign. It's a whole nother aspect of the game. We'll talk about that right when we're done looking at these things here. Last thing I want to call out are these torment cards. On every one of your character cards here, you do have a set amount of health, and we're going to get a character card out here and look at it a little bit closer in just a second. But every one of these characters have a set amount of health, and once you acquire the first part of that, and you'll notice that every character has 2 of these health items. How that works is once you acquire the first part of it, you then take a torment card, and then once you get the last part of it, you're then effectively neutralized or knocked out. That's another thing I like about this game. No one technically dies. You just sort of get neutralized and knocked out. And then you're able to come back and kind of spawn back into the game, which is nice as well. There's no death in the Gentleman's Unicorn Club. Okay, here's our agent cards right here, and that's going to be for the Nemesis player. And I'm going to grab Tobias here. Every one of these agent cards are actually double-sided, which is really nice. And what that offers is they're pretty much exactly the same outside of a couple, I believe it's just 1 difference. There might be 2 on some of them, because I haven't looked at every single one of them, but there is a difference between each one of these sides, and it's a very slight difference, but it allows the Nemesis player, chapter to chapter, to customize that particular agent. So Tobias here can actually be sort of 2 different types of agents based on the customization or the side that Nemesis player chooses. So I like that as well. Now it does have to stay that way for the entire chapter, but if you were to play, let's say with Tobias, for one reason or the other on the next chapter, you'd be able to say, you know what, I want a little bit of a different Tobias, and I'm going to use the other side and have some different abilities that he's able to do over the course of gameplay. So that's the agent cards, and they're very simple. They will list right off here these icons, exactly what they can do. Every character has 3 types of things. They have their agility, which is opening doors and moving around the board, things of that nature. They have their ranged combat, which is the red. That's the amount of dice they're going to be able to roll if they could do a ranged attack. And to do a ranged attack, you do have to have a ranged weapon. It's an important concept to know. You can't just do a ranged attack without having a ranged weapon. But it'll tell you how many dice you can roll, and that's all these numbers mean. And then the last number here in green is the actual melee attack value. And then I'll tell you how many dice you can roll there, where Tobias is a pretty big melee punch, and he gets to roll 5 dice when he goes for that attack. Now, those dice that you can pick up will be changed based on items that you have, upgrades, abilities, Nemesis, different powers, different things that you have, whether you're the Nemesis player or the Unicorn Club here, you will be able to modify that number of dice that you'll be able to get, whether it's attack or defense, and that's nice. Tobias has got 12 health, shows it right there. There are 3 different types of special abilities: sprint, evade, and counterattack. Tobias actually has sprint, which means for one action, he can run in line of sight to another enemy character, which would be one of the gentlemen and or one of the allies. The bobbies here that are on the board right here, these are the allied bobbies. Those are part of the Unicorn Club's units. For one action, you can move and then attack. You get right up next to a melee range of another character, which just means you're one space away from, well, let's use, here's Tobias. So let's say Tobias was right here. A sprint would allow me to run all the way up to this character. You never enter the square of another character. You just get up next to that character. And it could be anywhere. It could be here. It could even be diagonally. But it allows me to run up next to that character and then attack all for one action. So that's what the sprint is going to allow this character to do, or this agent to do. That's the terminology they use in this game. These are agents. And then our character heroes here, each one of them will have their own special ability as well. And this last one shows how much ether the agent will have as well. And again, each one of these guys from the Unicorns Club will have a starting amount of ether too. Ether is just a currency in this game that allows you to spend to get extra bonuses, like a little extra firepower, or maybe a little extra defense, or there's a special ability you can do, or maybe there's an upgrade or a role that takes ether to be able to execute that action. And those are going to be right on your card. You're going to gain those over the course of play. There's ways to get more ether. And how the Nemesis player gets ether is by the Unicorn Club using ether. And I like that mechanic as well. The Unicorn Club members will gain more ether based on, cards and abilities and things that they do. Right? The Nemesis doesn't really have that ability to do that per se. The main way the Nemesis player is going to be gaining ether to execute their powers and or using ether to execute things they want their agents to do, they're going to get that when these guys use ether. So it's almost this revolving sort of upkeep mechanic, and I don't want to misuse that term because the game does have a term called upkeep, and it's an ability of one of these characters. You'll find that on cards as well. But it is like an upkeep where they use it, Nemesis player gets it, right? They use it, Nemesis player gets it. So there's always this balance of, as the Unicorn players, do I just use a bunch of this ether to do special abilities that give me more fight, more defense, more something? You have to balance that because every time you use that ether, you're making the Nemesis player stronger and more powerful and giving them more ether to be able to attack back. It isn't just a brawl of final man standing. It is a scenario. There is an objective. There's multiple objectives that you're going to be trying to accomplish as a group, either being the Nemesis player or your group of players. There's objectives you're going to be trying to accomplish. So, sometimes you will sacrifice players and get neutralized and knocked out to be able to accomplish what you need to do for the particular scenario. Okay, we're going to take a look at the character cards here, the part of the Unicorn Club. I'm going to keep saying that because I absolutely love that. That is great. So we're going to use Drago here. It's the one character that we did not use. There are 5 characters in the game. You will always play with at least 4 characters, and that's important. Even if it's a 2-player game and there's just one character playing the Unicorns Club, you will play with 4 characters. That's just how the game balances out against the Nemesis. All right, so something important to remember, and it's clearly laid out right in the rules. There's Drago here, and you'll see that on his card, he will have the 3 spots for his arsenal, so he can carry up to 3, different items, weapons, things of that nature. And then again, right across there, same as we saw with our agents, he's got his agility, how many dice to roll, his trigger, his ranged, how many dice to roll, and his punch, his melee, how many dice to roll. And that's just right across the front there. And then each character does have a special ability as well as a class. Now, he obviously is a good guy, wears a top hat. The wolf, kind of like Bear here, he's kind of a Drago. I really wouldn't say you're a monster, though, man. I mean, that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of low. But this guy's a monster. So his ability that he'll have is called Furious Charge, and it is a bonus action, which means it won't actually cost against his normal actions for the game. So every time it's someone's turn, whether it's a Nemesis player or a character, every person gets 2 actions they're able to do. And you can do the same 2 actions twice if you want. So you can attack twice, you can move twice, there's various different things you can do when it's your turn, and everything's listed off on this little handy-dandy reference sheet. There will be one of these for each one of the players in the game, and it is a really good card. It's double-sided, and it lists off pretty much everything that you can do on your turn, whether you're the Nemesis or you're part of the Gentleman's Unicorns Club. And on the back there, it lists off the round summaries, as well as some of the icons that you'll find on various cards in the game. So it tells you exactly what it does. So this is a really nice little reference sheet, and every player will have one of those. So that's nice. So his bonus action here is called the Furious Charge. It says gain +2 melee when using a sprint. So that doesn't necessarily cost any ether. Some of the characters' special abilities will cost ether. Some of them actually will cost against their action points they're taking over the course of the game. Some of them are bonus, much like this, which is not going to cost anything extra. But this is pretty awesome ability because you can just use 1 action point to do a charge, a sprinting charge. When you do that, you automatically gain on top of the ability of your charge, which means you can just, let's say this was our character. You charge. Well, let's just go back here to our example we used earlier with Tobias. You charged in, right? If you were this character, you would get to charge in for all just 1 action, move all the way in, and attack still for 1 action. If you were this character, you'd get your 3 dice to roll for that melee hit, plus you would get another 2 dice because of the Furious Charge ability that this character has. Now you're up to 5 dice, and that doesn't even count if you had other things on this card that gave you even more dice for melee attacks. And that might be an upgrade. It might be the role that you're playing over the course of that chapter. And we'll talk about that more here when we look at these other cards. Okay, here in the bottom, what you're going to see, again, is those health bits. So you got the 4 and the 4. Every character is different. So he has 8 total health. But the reason why they break it up is once you've acquired 4 damage, you then take a torment card, which is going to be some kind of ailment against your character. You're not going to really want those. You can get rid of those if you do an action. There's a certain type of action you can do on your card. It's called Revive. So there's a Recover and a Revive. Recover is going to be an action that you can take, and you're going to be able to heal 3 and get 2 ether. That's a way that these characters can heal and as well gain that ether back. But there's also an action called Revive that you can take, which is your whole entire turn for that round. And what that will do is kind of refresh pretty much most of things that's going on, and it'll get rid of those torment cards. So that's how you get rid of those. But once you take that final 4, then you're going to be neutralized and knocked down. You basically kind of get stood up, sit up around, get stood up, and then you can play again. And when you do revive, there is something nice with that as well. If there's another character that's adjacent to you that has been neutralized, you can help that character revive as well. So you do want to kind of try to stick together as much as possible. That is a strategy I've found from the Unicorns Club. There's a lot of benefits that really work well, or synergies that work well when you're near other players, specifically that revive. So that is something that I found that I like, and it is a strategy. You do want to keep at least a couple players paired up if you're going to need to spread out depending on what you need to accomplish over the course of that chapter. Okay, that's what the card looks like. The only thing that's going to be on this Outside of that is on the other side, there's a real nice flavor text around that character, gives you some backstory, and just kind of adds to the storyline of what's going on with those characters. So that's really nice. Every character also will take on a role during the game. Someone will be a leader, and they will get the leader card, and then there will be other roles as well, and that's just another card that you're going to give your character, and the leader will be able to pass those out to each one of the characters and kind of signify what their role is. So here we've got the Samaritan, here's a bouncer, here's a bruiser, and these are all going to do different things. Like this Samaritan here, the role that this character is taking on. For 1 ether, revive or make a recover action with a gentleman line of sight. The target also gains 1 ether. So you just have to be line of sight, trying to auto revive or recover another gentleman that's just within line of sight. Okay, so that could be across the entire map as long as you can see them. That's a really nice, powerful skill, but it does cost 1 ether. It's not free. And then you'll also get upgrades. When you start, you will start with an upgrade, and the upgrades do align specifically to the particular class of character that you're playing. And those upgrade cards are actually right here, so we'll jump right over here. And you'll see they're different colors. Each one of those colors align to the color of your board here. So you'll just pick up the stack, and you'll choose one. And for instance, here with Walter, the Tesla, Power Glove Tesla. He's pretty awesome. His miniature is right here. He's got this electrical arc that's kind of going back and forth between, his Tesla gloves. It's a pretty awesome character. You can see how fantastic the miniatures are. Bear, why don't you go ahead and load up the video? Bear does a great job. He's going to start kind of going over the components that we've just sort of started to talk through. And then he's going to zero in here on our board and show some of these miniatures, and we're going to look at some of their miniatures as well, and there'll be some photos at the end too. But Bear's going to do kind of an overview of what we got here while we're going through and looking at various different things. He does a great job with that, and with the top hat, again, looking like a poop! All right, so I went with the enhanced suit as my upgrade, which gives me a bonus 3 health. Really good. So that beefs up his health. He's at 7. Now he's at 10 with this. And it also gives me the evade skill as well, where he has the counterattack. So now I have the counterattack and the evade skill if I go with the enhanced suit upgrade. So that's what I'm going to do, giving him a nice punch there and having 2 different types of special abilities that I can use. Obviously, evade being more on that defensive side, and counterattack, well, frankly, both of those are more of a defensive type action, with the evade giving me more dice, plus 3 extra dice. It does cost an ether, and the counterattack allowing me to make an immediate attack to anything that attacks me, which is really nice as well. Again, I need that ether. It does cost 1 ether to do any one of the special abilities. Okay, let's hit our 3 boards, and then we're going to get into gameplay. Now, I do say 3 because there's one more, which is the intermission. I'll talk about that last. This board here is simply going to be our round tracker, so you're going to see this little token. It's going to track the rounds. Now, there are 8, and I will say through the course of the campaign, there are different objectives that are set where you have to do it within so many rounds. So that's why you do have a round counter here. And then you're going to have your activation tracks here. The top being the Gentleman's and the bottom being the Nemesis. And those are going to activate back and forth. And I like that mechanic. There is a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 that are on this board. So you won't just go card, 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 and then card, card, card. Or, everything goes back and forth between the Gentleman and then the Nemesis gets to respond, or vice versa. You are going to kind of go back and forth. A Gentleman's going to go, a Nemesis is going to go. Gentleman's going to go, Nemesis is going to go. And I like that with this particular game, especially when it gets down to being very objective, specific, and scenario-based, where you're going to be trying to accomplish various different things. It would really be unbalanced if it was designed in a way where all the players would get to go and then the Nemesis would be able to respond. Or even if it was a type of setup where the Nemesis could respond on his own turn, but even kind of having counter actions over the course of their turns, I still don't think that would have worked. I really like the way they went with the design, where it literally is just back and forth, and you don't really know what's coming, which is a really nice mechanic as well. So the first thing that's going to happen is the Nemesis player is just going to go ahead and put their cards down on their row, okay? Because they don't have to converse with anybody, and they need to do that first before the Gentlemen start to talk. because you don't want to start, making your activation based on what their strategy is going to be. So that can either be in secret or they can just say it out in the open. It doesn't really matter because the Nemesis player has already put how they would like to react down. So it is somewhat of a program mechanic as well, where you're going to have to sort of not only say, this is what I would want to do over the course of this round, but this is what I think the other players are going to try to do as well. So you're going to look at your cards, and they're going to have just the basic characters right on them, your agents and the different things you can do right on them. So you're going to have your Emerson, you're going to have your Tobias, and again, this is just for that first chapter. These are the main agents. Where did he go? Oh, he's up here. Tobias is up here. So put him back where he goes. They start at the exits. They're not going to come in until round 2 for this particular setup, but you're going to have a card for each one of them, which you're not going to use for round 1, obviously, because they're not there. You're going to have a card for your minions, which is going to represent all your minions on the board. And whenever your minions activate, you flip this card, you activate every minion on the board. Your minions are just like any other character on the board, whether it's an agent or a unicorn club or a nemesis. It's the same conceptually, although these guys only get 1 action and they only have 1 health. So they can only do one thing. They'll just move or they'll attack, or they're not as versatile as what an agent would be or a character would be. And they only have 1 health. So pretty much hit them and they're down. But they will have abilities here at the bottom that they'll be able to do. And that will be unique for what type of minion you're fighting, because there are different types. And then you got your Chaos card here, which is going to be one of your cards. And again, you won't know where that is as well. And that Chaos card is going to allow the Nemesis player to activate all of the powers they have available to them if they have Ether available to be able to activate those powers. But normally, on a Nemesis turn, they would only be able to activate 1 of their powers that have thus been revealed. And you can have up to 6 powers revealed over the course, and you'll gain more as you progress through the campaign. And once you'll kind of, once you have 6 and you gain another one that you might like better than what's there, you'll kind of offset one and you'll put a new one down. So the Nemesis player will gain power and get more powerful over the course of the campaign, just like your characters will, as they'll gain items and upgrades over the course of the campaign. So that's how that Chaos card will work. So it is very powerful, because if the Nemesis player over the course of that first round starts to just put a lot of Ether out on those powers, whenever that Chaos card comes out, they're going to be able to just execute every power they can effectively pay for, where normally they can only do 1 if it's their turn. So that's how that Chaos card is going to work, and that's how the mechanic of this board is going to work. Next thing you're going to see here is the actual Nemesis board, and this is where their powers are going to go. We just talked about that. They're going to have a track here where they can track how many times they take down various gentlemen. Things will happen in the course of the game depending on how many of those gentlemen they have actually taken down. There will also be an area here that will list off, and this really comes into play if you're doing a campaign. Once you gain your conspiracy points, which is this little token right here, and you'll use that to track as well. You gain conspiracy points. You can spend those conspiracy points on buying things or upgrading, you would say, for the Nemesis, and that's how that works. Last thing here you have are these Chaos cards, and there's a deck right up here of those, and here's the powers as well you'll gain over the course of gameplay. But these Chaos cards are kind of the gotcha cards. They're cards that will keep, the Nemesis player, you'll keep them hidden and secret, and you'll be able to play those on your turn. You can play as many of them as you want that you've acquired, but once you play them, they kind of get discarded and they're gone and they're done. And you'll be able to gain these Chaos cards over the course of the game through various mechanics. But these are kind of those cards where they kind of come out of the blue. You don't really know. Like, you might know what kind of, agents, obviously, what are on the board. You know what the minions are. You know exactly what they do. You know how many cards the Nemesis player has. But you don't know what's in these Chaos cards, and that can get really dangerous. When you think you've got it under control, then all of a sudden the Nemesis player starts throwing down these Chaos cards that you don't know what's coming out, what's going to happen, right? And at the beginning of every chapter, the Nemesis player will start with 2 of these Chaos cards here. Now, the last board that we have is actually on the reverse side of this here. So at the end of a chapter, we'd flip this over, and now we would go to what we call the intermission board. And you'll see here that there's various different areas to set things out. So you'll want to set this out on the table. You'll draw 3 random location cards and you'll put those locations down. You'll put various different upgrades and items and things that you'll put around this board, able to effectively upgrade your character from chapter to chapter in the campaign. And that's where this board's going to come into play. And I like how they did that because they really added an extra, I would say, phase to the game, where normally games like this, you might keep what you have if it's that type of game, and you just go to the next chapter. You would just, okay, put all this away, get all the new tiles, and again, there's tons of more tiles you'll see here in the game. There's all kinds of, there's more tiles that are included to be able to, to be able to build out other scenarios. But it isn't just wipe the board and build a new scenario, keep everything you have, move forward. You go through this entire phase where you get to talk about how you want to upgrade your characters and go from different locations on that board and upgrade your character. So that's really fun. I find that as being a fun part of the game. It isn't something that they had to do. They could have done that mechanically in different ways. But I like that they went that route. And I don't know of any other game off the top of my head that has a setup like that where you go between each one of those various chapters. It's just kind of like this is what happens, right? You kind of go through a set of rules, where this actually made it more feel like you're kind of still playing the game, going from chapter to chapter, and that was done really well. So nice job on that. All right, so let's get to what gameplay is going to look like. So when the game starts, and again, everything's kind of already set up. We're not going to go through complete setup. Obviously, the chapter's set up. I've got everybody set up with a role. They've got their starting gear. They got their starting upgrade. The Nemesis player's got its chaos cards. It's 3 powers that it will start with. You'll start with 2 that are titled basic, and then you do get 1 extra one. So that's set up ready for the campaign mode. And we're ready to go. And this is set up for a campaign, because if it was a one-shot, what we would actually be doing is kind of overpowering the various different sides if it was just a one-shot scenario. But this is a campaign, so it's just set up from the base. Okay? So what's going to happen again is the Nemesis player is going to take those cards and say, okay, what order? Well, Tobias and Emerson don't get to come out round 1. They come out round 2 in this particular one. So those guys are just going to get set to the side, and I'm only going to have 2 cards. So what am I going to do? Am I going to do the Chaos first or the Minions first? Well, it would be kind of silly to go Chaos first because I don't have any Ether. So that wouldn't make any sense. Hopefully, over the course of play, I might be able to get a little Ether to be able to add to the board, but maybe I won't. Right? So I'm going to go Minions first, and then I'm going to go Chaos. And the rest of the players are probably going to know that. That's probably going to be what I'm going to do. It's kind of the obvious thing. But as the chapters progress and the game progresses, it's not going to be so obvious what order those things are in. Now it's going to be the turn of the Unicorns Club to put down what they want to do. We've got our allies. We've got each one of our characters. And now they're going to talk about what order we want to go in. Well, you know what? Maybe I want to have... Maybe I want to have my leader here go first, because he's got sprint. He can barrel through that door and maybe take this guy out. So why don't we have him go first, all right? And then maybe after that, let's have our allies activate. That way our bobbies can start grabbing the fire extinguisher, maybe putting out some fires, protecting the damsel in distress who needs to get to one of these exits as one of the win conditions. So let's have the allies go second, all right, and then let's throw a Walter in there with his Tesla gloves, do some damage, and we might take him out one of these other doors out the back. I like that. And then let's go ahead and take Emma. Let's have her go next and get her outside, because she does have the ability to heal with her ranged weapon. Let's get our spirit character, Abigail, here. She's really cool. She's got this ethereal like sword. She's got these tentacles. She's kind of coming up through. This is a really cool character. Let's get her, and let's put her right in with our leader as well, and we're going to put her, and she'll go last. All right. Now what we're going to do is what we would call kind of the draft of putting down all the activations is over. And what we're going to do now is go through the activation phase. So we're going to go ahead and flip that first one The Unicorn Club will always go first, and we're going to flip that over and we'll see up. Okay, Dreadful. Major Dreadful is up. All right, Major Dreadful is right up here, and I am actually going to use his sprint ability for this one because there's a door right here, and I can actually sprint, bust that door down, and get right up to this enemy here. So I'm going to use that. And it does cost 1 ether to be able to do that, and it is one of my action points. Let's see here. Make sure I don't have any extra things. So I also have Taunt as my upgrade. I don't want to use that yet. Taunt actually pulls enemies towards me, and that's going to be really good when I'm trying to get the damsel sort of out. So I'm going to want to keep this guy near the damsel so I can protect her with bobbies and then taunt with this guy. That was a really smart thing for me to do there. And then he also has the leader, where I can make 1 action with a gentleman in line of sight for 2 ether. Make 1 action with a gentleman. So anybody that's in line of sight where she would be in line of sight, for 2 more ether I can have her do 1 action. I think I'm going to save that and not do anything with that particularly right now. He's a knight, and he does have the ability of the Steam Fist, which is like a real big punch. Don't really need that right now. I'll save that for when I'm fighting one of the agents that actually have a decent amount of health. These guys, nothing, all right? So I'm going to cash in an ether, which means, again, now our Nemesis player gets that ether, and the Nemesis player then can choose, where do I want to put that? Do I want to take that and put it on one of my agents? So round 2, they've already got some ether ready to go. Or do I want to put it on one of my powers? I think I'm going to actually put it on one of my powers, and I'm going to put it on one of my basic powers where I can draw 1 chaos card, or I can activate up to 2 minions as a power. So that can be on top of minion activation or, just another activation for those minions. So I think I'm going to go with the minion activation, which will allow me to have a little bit more positioning going into round 2. Right? So now we're ready to activate. For 1 action point, I'm doing my sprint, sprinting through with Major Dreadful. Boosh, bust that door down. Door flies out, busts into a million pieces. Okay, it's out. The door is now effectively open. I'm going to run all the way up to this guy and be able to attack all for 1 action. Now, I'm not going to use my Steam Fist, and I do get 3 dice here for his attack, so I'll take those 3 dice, and that will be what I've got, and I will roll. And I effectively only have to hit him once. Now, when we're doing combat, we look at the different icons on this dice. Basically, if you get the little target symbol, it's like looks like a little target, that's a hit. If you get a target with a little plus symbol, that's a hit. But some items say if you get a target with a plus symbol, it does something extra for you. If you get a little hat, that doesn't do anything, that's for defense. And if you get a crown, that will be one of 2 things. Either you can use it as a successful hit or a success, or you can auto gain 2 ether. So you can either get ether or get a hit. And then the last one is a little umbrella, and that comes into effect when you do cover. So that's more of a defense as well, but it's only going to give you defense if you're positioned in cover. And we'll talk about that mechanic because I love the way they did cover in this game. All right, so I'm going to take these 3 dice, and I'm going to roll them. Come on, Dreadful, take them out! No, off the table! Bear! Thanks, buddy! Okay, it's a hat. All right, so I got a hit plus, a hat, and a hat. That's enough to make the kill, but again, this zombie is going to get to defend. So we got enough to make the kill. It is a plus, and there was 2 hats, which don't count. Now, the zombie does have 2 agility, and that's going to be the defense. So we're going to take that dice for the zombie. We're going to roll the 2, and umbrella. Zombie's dead because the zombie is not in cover. Now, if the zombie was in cover, let's say he was behind a box or he was, behind like a window, still line of sight, but he was behind a window. And there are windows on these tiles as well. The little icon that shows like kind of a square, sort of a box, that's a window. You can't see through a window, shoot through a window, but it does offer cover. You can also crawl out of a window. It takes 2 agility points to be able to do that. But you can do that if you want to. But there is no cover for this zombie here. So zombie is knocked out. Zombie's down. Zombie is down, and Dreadful has done his job. Now, he does still have 1 more action, and we could use that with agility. It will take 1 to open the door, and it will take 1 to move as well. I can move. So I think what I'll do, and I do, how many agility points do I have? I have 3. So I have 3 agility points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get positioned. I want to get some line of sight here because Oh, he doesn't have a... His artwork in his miniature, obviously, he's holding this gun, but he doesn't have a ranged weapon right now. But I might be able to... I don't know. I want to get positioned there anyway. So I'm going to use my agility points to move one. I am now at a door to move one. I'm going to use my second point to move right here, and I'm going to use my third to open this door. So now this door is open, and I'm ready to go out and fight more minions. You know what? I probably should have went towards that item cache, but that's what I did, so that's what I'm going to go with. All right, that was Dreadful's turn, and his turn is now over. It is now the Nemesis turn. Flip it over. Boom, minions. All right, we got minions. I can also activate 1 power on my turn, and I've got my Chaos cards as well. Let's look at my Chaos cards and see what I can do. All right, if I can pick them up. There we go. Okay, gain 3 reserve ether. Ooh, anytime. Okay, these chaos cards do indicate here on the bottom when you will be able to use these cards. There's different, phases. Here is on the order phase, so it says switch the order of 2 face down activation cards in the same line. So, I could just say, oh, you think that's what you're doing? Switch that up, and then you're not doing what you think you're going to do. All right, gain 3 reserve ether. You know what? I'm going to do that, and I'm going to cash that in. I'm going to just go ahead and discard. I'm going to do that. It says anytime. I'm going to do it right now, and I'm going to gain 3 ether, and I think it's in gain 3 reserve ether. Okay, so 1, 2, 3... 1, 2, 3 ether, and I'm going to put that right down in my reserve, and there's a little spot here that says ether reserve. All right. So that's what I'm going to do there. And I am going to keep that in my reserve for now because I do have ether on the power that I would want to activate for this round. So here's the minions. I'm going to go ahead. Let me see. Would it be beneficial to activate up to 2 minions? I'm going to do that last. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to activate all my minions. Okay. So I'm going to look at my minions here. They have 2 agility points, but they do only have 1 action. So they can only move, they can move and open a door. If they're next to a door, they can move twice. They only have 1 action point. They don't have 2. All right, and then I went with if the zombie is in the same square as a fire token, replace it with 1 flaming zombie. All right, so I am going to want to get these guys to these areas here because a flaming zombie is more powerful, does some different things than what this minion zombie does. And then I also have Undying, which is a defense boost. Crowns actually give me a defense boost as well. Okay. All right. And then we did talk about the crown before with the Unicorn Club. It gives you the ether or a hit. If you're rolling and attacking with the Nemesis, the crown only gives you a hit, doesn't give you ether. Again, how the Nemesis gets ether is by these guys using ether. Love that mechanic. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start moving, and I'm going to get these guys around the back here. Again, these guys can't work right now. They're off the board until round 2. I'm going to go... I don't want to just straight open this door because I think it would be silly, but I do want to get positioned to be able to see if I can do something here. So 1, 2, and I'm going to go 1, 2, be waiting at that door. Kind of got that door surrounded there. These guys have gone. I'm going to take these guys, and I'm going to start moving up this way. I'm going to go 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm going to do 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. I'm going to say right here for the cover. I'm leaving this guy right here. And that's what I want to do. That's where I'm going to leave everybody. That's what I'm doing with my minions. I am going to activate my power, cashing in that ether. Okay, that's now gone. And I can activate up to 2 minions. All right, so I can activate 2 more minions if I want to. And I'm going to take these guys around here. I'm going to go 1, 2, and put him right at the corner. I'm going to keep these guys positioned together, and I'm actually going to move, let's see, I moved that guy. I'm going to leave this guy right here. And the reason for that is whenever you get in an area where you're surrounded by multiple minions or enemies, each one of them adds another 2 dice. That's how group combat works. You just throw in extra dice. It's like a more powerful attack. So I do want to keep these guys grouped up. I got these guys grouped up. I got these bobbies right here, and I'm going to start doing some damage here to these bobbies if I don't get them out of the way. So we'll see what the Unicorn player does. Okay, turn over. We're now going to go to the Unicorn player, and we've got allies. So now our allies can activate, which means our damsel as well as our bobbies. And these cards right here will represent those. And we can see here that our bobby's got 1 health, our damsel's got 3 health, bobby's got 2 agility, damsel's got 4. Again, they are allies, much like our minions. They're only going to get that 1 activation point, okay? So let's go ahead and do our bobbies first. I am going to take my bobby. All right, bobbies do have a range. They're going to roll. They have short range, which is within 4 squares. They're going to roll 3 for that. So they're more ranged attacks. Their melee damage is pretty much nothing. So they're just kind of chucking ranged attacks. Okay, so they're ranged fighters, really, to tell you the truth. But they do have 2 of the agility points, and I don't know that I'm gonna do some area control here. I'm not gonna open this door just yet. So what I'm gonna do here is go. I'm gonna leave this guy right here at this door. Okay, he's gonna stay. I'm gonna take this guy and I'm gonna go 1, and I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get the fire extinguisher, and then I'm gonna go 2, and I'm gonna move right there. Then what I'm gonna leave him right there because he'll be able to put some fire out on the next round when it starts to spread. This guy, I'm gonna activate. And I'm gonna go 1, 2. I can see right out that window, and I'm gonna start to do some damage control here. So I can't move and attack. I can only do 1 action. So I'm gonna do 1, 2. Give myself some cover in this box. I'm gonna stay right here, bringing those guys in, and then allowing me to attack on the next round. And then this guy here, I'm going to just bring right over here next to the cover of this box and leave him actually right there. And it starts to affect the line of sight now, being able to be hit. We can go center to center, so we're good. Here we do have cover, but we can hit. So we are still line of sight everywhere. Leave these guys, and the damsel can move up to 4, because I do have 4 agility there. So for her action, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to use that 4th one to open that door with her, and she's going to be ready to now make a mad dash towards that exit, because one of the win conditions for the unicorns is to get the damsel protected and get her out to one of the exits. Now, old Tobias and Emerson here, well, this is Emerson, this is Tobias, are going to be coming in round 2, and these guys got some pretty big punch, these agents. These are going to be the Nemesis main characters. So we're really going to have to start getting our guys out there if that's the route they're going to take with the damsel. Okay, that's going to be my action there with the allies, and that's all I'm going to do. And now we're back to the Nemesis player, and now we have the Chaos card. Well, in this particular instance, I'd be able to activate every single one of my powers if I had the ether available, and guess what? I do, because I played that Chaos card that gave me ether in my reserve. So I do have 3 ether in my reserve, which will allow me to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 4 to activate them all, but let's see here with this one that says 2, Sinister Purpose. Immediately make 1 free attack against, immediately make 1 free attack action with an agent. Oh, there's no agents on the board, so I can't do that. So I'm just going to go draw 1 Chaos card. That'll cost, okay, and I'll draw that. So I do have another Chaos card. Okay. Force a gentleman to reroll an attack. Nice, it can be done anytime. I'll keep that in secret. And I will do this other one here that allows me, that allows me to activate. I will have 1 extra left over. I'll do this last one here that allows me to activate up to 2 minions if I want to. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to activate these guys right here that now can make an attack. So this minion is going to make an attack. It's going to do melee, which is going to roll 3, and they are pretty strong. So they're going to roll 3 against this Bobby, and the Bobby does only have 1 health if they're able to make that hit. So we'll roll, and again, these guys, crowns, oh, that's defense, okay? That's defense, so it's not doing anything extra. And I rolled 1 hit, which is enough to kill the Bobby. But we look at the Bobby gets to roll 2 dice. Can the Bobby defend that 1 hit? And he does not. He gets a hit and an umbrella. No, he does. He's in cover. Okay, here's the beauty to the mechanic with cover. If you are in a spot on the board where you're behind, you're next, kind of behind a crate, you're in an area that's covered, you're standing outside a building, but someone can see you through a window, you're somewhere where you have technically cover. If that's the case, and this guy is positioned in a way that we would have cover, if you roll an umbrella, that will give you a defense only if you're in cover. So, because of that, I was able to defend against that attack, and the Bobby lives another day. All right, the second one I'm going to do is this guy right here. So he's also going to have cover, and he's going to attack with a 3, and he's going to get 1 hit. All right, Bobby's going to defend with 2, and he gets a crown, and he gets a hit, which is not a defense in any way. So this Bobby is actually now going to get taken out. This Bobby is now down. And he got the zombie, the shambling zombie to the face. I think the guy took this umbrella and just gave it to him right in the eye. Right, now, let me make sure I did that. So it says activate up to 2 minions. Well, yes, that was right, because minions only get 1 attack. They'd only get 1 action. They couldn't take 2 like other agents and characters could. So that was played. We're good to go, and that was a great way to activate that power and be able to already take a Bobby out. So now we're 1 Bobby for 1 zombie that's been taken off kind of side to side, okay? Now what's going to happen is we're going to go back to the Unicorn, and now there is no more activations for the Nemesis, and the Unicorn Club is going to go ahead and just play out their activations. The next being our Tesla man here, and what he's going to do, I think, is, maybe I take him and I move out, take this door. You can move through allied characters at any point in time. You can't through enemy characters, but you can move through. You can't stop on their spot, but you can move through them. So I could move him out here and get him ready for an attack against these guys. There's various different things I could do. I'll stop there as far as the gameplay, but I would play out the rest of the actions, and then on the next turn, we would do the same thing with the board, but our Emerson and Tobias would now be entering the board, and we would mix their cards in as well. So now the Nemesis would have 4 cards or 4 activations that they would have over the course of that round. As well as, their powers and everything else they normally would have. So that is Rise of the Moloch, the game. Again, there are tons more stuff. There's more cards down here that Bear has. There's more tiles we saw. Here's all the extra miniatures that are included in the game. There's a lot more than what we have here on the board. You'll see everything that's in blue is for the characters. Everything that's in yellow is for the Nemesis player. You'll see more characters here, more allies. They got great sculpts. The miniatures are fantastic. And all the different minions that you're going to have. And the mighty Moloch right here, character that you're going to get to represent that major fight, that major character that you're going to have to take on at the very end of the campaign. You can kind of see, scale-wise, how much larger that miniature is than any of the other miniatures on the board. And I do like the size of the miniatures they went with this. It still keeps its small form factor on the table, and it's not so huge, which I really like the fact they went with these smaller ones, so that was well done as well. So there's the extra miniatures that we do have, and that is how the game is going to work. Team, I hope you enjoyed this video. I definitely recommend this game. When it hits retail, go check it out. This is a great one versus all player game, and it probably is one of my favorite right now. And the mechanics are phenomenal. I really do love the gameplay, but the theme draws me in. I absolutely love this steampunk London-based theme. Very, very cool. So again, there's some more rules that I haven't gone over here. You'll find those in the book. It's not that difficult. You can see it's a fairly simplistic game. The complexity really comes into how are you going to activate all the different things that you can do and in what order you're going to do that round to round as you play through that chapter. All right, Rise of the Moloch. Nice job, Simon. Excellent, excellent job. So hit that like, click the subscribe below to join the team, ring the bell. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time. Roll them crits. Let's go, Bear.